role ultimately is just to come be the best version of myself and know that it's enough, and then help, push everybody else, to become the best too, and learn from all the old heads. And, they said they got a young group in the D-line room, and, this year I'm finna be the youngest. So just pretty much learn as much as I can.
The newest Dallas Cowboy is here, and so is Draft Day Insider on day 2 of NFL Draft Weekend here from the Star in Frisco alongside Mickey Spagnola. I'm Kyle Youmans. You just heard from Mazi Smith, the defensive tackle out of Michigan, your newest Dallas Cowboys, as Dallas takes him at the 26th overall pick in night 1. They get a run stuffer, one of the best in college football last year at stopping the run, and something that the Cowboys have been looking for quite some time.
Yeah, absolutely, and I've already nicknamed him the Maz, okay? And, when I was thinking about them drafting him, and I'm sure everybody's trying to figure out why they drafted him, right? And so I went back and looked at last year, and 11 of the 17 games, the opponents ran for more than 100 yards against the Cowboys. And in their 5 regular season losses, they gave up at least 136 yards rushing, tops by Green Bay with 207. And in Jacksonville, 192. So my thoughts were, you got to do something to improve this team's run defense. And I think when you draft a guy that's 6'3", 225, and can bench 200 pounds 34 times, now you got somebody in there as an anchor. And that's exactly what they needed.
That's the thing about Mazi Smith specifically. He was number 1 on the annual Bruce Feldman's Freaks list because of not only his size and his strength, but he also has some movement ability. He will be your true one technique. Entering year number 1, entering his rookie season, he brings an uptick not only from a run defense standpoint, which he will do individually, but he allows for the rest of this offense to really, or rest of this defense to really open up and allow for the linebackers to run free, these edge rushers to run free. How much does Dan Quinn now have a tool to work with having Smith?
Yeah, a tool. It might be like a toy, because now look what I get to put in the middle of my defense to pair with Jonathan Hankins, a veteran guy. And as the youngin said, he's got a lot to learn, and he's willing to learn. This guy was also a team captain. And it didn't happen during the season. He was voted at Michigan the team captain before the 2022 season began. So I read another thing that's like, he's one of those guys, when he talks, everybody listens. So a team leader potentially also. So yeah, I like the pick. When you get to 26, chances are you probably didn't have many first round, if any, grades left on any of the players. A lot of times you think, well, let's not value the defensive tackle spot. The Cowboys have done that previously, since the last time they drafted a defensive tackle in the first round was Russell Maryland in 1991. But this is almost like a second-round pick when you're at 26. So I think all bets are off, and boy, that they took him. I think the defensive players will be very happy.
No doubt about that. Even Micah Parsons yesterday showing that he had a little love for Mazi Smith, saying that he called Dan Quinn personally to say, I want the Michigan defensive tackle. They did go get him. He was 6th in the country last year with 27 run stops. He might even up that number in year 1 as a Dallas Cowboy. That's not it on Mazi Smith. When we come back, we welcome Nick Harris to the show, and we break down some of the Mazi Smith secret audio. What did Jerry Jones have to say about adding the defensive tackle to this Dan Quinn defense?
Dallas Cowboys Draft Day Insider is brought to you by United Ag and Turf, your first-round draft pick for John Deere equipment. And by Dr. Pepper, the one Cowboys fans deserve. This segment is brought to you by United Ag and Turf, your first-round draft pick for John Deere equipment.
As unpredictable as it may be, there is always one thing certain on night 1 of the NFL draft, and that is that dreams come true. Mazi Smith's dream came true when the Dallas Cowboys picked up the phone and selected him at pick number 26. Here's what Jerry Jones, Mike McCarthy, and others had to say when Mazi Smith was on the phone in the secret audio.
Oh, they me.
Mazi.
Hello? Yo.
What's happening, baby?
What's up, man?
Hey, I got somebody that wants to talk to you, my man. Hold
Yes,
on
sir.
1 second.
Yes, sir.
Is this Mazi,
Yes, sir, this is Maz.
the cowboy?
Yeah.
Well,
We making it happen.
Mazi, I'm telling you, it's our thrill to be able to call you. This is Jerry Jones. And
Yes, sir.
tell you, we just turned your card in. We're drafting you for
Thank you.
be our
Oh, yeah.
big part of our defense. And coach, right? And but I
Yes,
want
sir.
the coach to say to you, everybody's wanting to say hello to you, but congratulations on your career and for working as hard as you have to get there.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Mazi, how you doing? Hey, congratulations. Enjoy this time with you. Obviously, we'll get to work when you get here, but can't tell you how excited we are to have you. You'll be a phenomenal fit. You crushed it in your visit here, so you're at a great place, young man. Congratulations.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Mazi, this is Coach DQ.
Yes, sir. What up, big dog?
What's up, man? How about this, huh?
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's crazy, dude. Yeah, well, you did it, bro. We can't wait to get you here, man. We
Yes,
can't wait
sir.
to get rocking with you. You're gonna.
Yes, sir.
I'll give you back the call, and the guys will get you rocking to get going.
Yeah,
All right,
thank
congrats, man.
you. Yeah, thank you, Coach.
One of the best parts of the entire draft weekend, hearing the emotion, hearing the excitement, not only from Mazi Smith, who was selected, but from the team that was doing the selecting in the Dallas Cowboys. Mazi Smith, the newest Dallas Cowboy. And we have the newest member of the Dallas Cowboys media team, Nick Harris, joining us for the first time. First off, welcome to the team. And you also get an opportunity to start on the same day as Mazi Smith. You'll forever be tied together. What was your gut feeling about the selection at 26?
You know, was it the flashiest pick that the Cowboys could have made at number 26? Maybe not with the names that were on the board, but I think it was the safest pick. When you look back at the team from last season and looking at the biggest needs of addressing, the interior defensive line had to be that with the run defense that they were able to show during the year. Mazi Smith comes in and he'll be able to immediately fill that role in the A and B gaps, being able to plug those running lanes and keep those running backs from getting positive yards like they were able to do in the 2022 season. You know, this will be able to help the Cowboys run defense in a lot of ways. And if I'm Dan Quinn, I'm looking at that whiteboard and I'm just circling the days until I get to Oxnard and work with Mazi. This is going to be a fun development.
How much do you feel like a mentorship back and forth between a Jonathan Hankins, who is a veteran? You went and you acquired him via the trade deadline last year. You retained him this offseason. Now they have kind of a one-on-one pairing that Mazi Smith can grow from.
Yeah, both of these guys are guys that, you know, have something to prove in this next season. And as Mickey was saying, Mazi Smith being a team captain at Michigan and what he's been able to show off the field and in the locker room for those guys, being able to bring that presence to the Dallas locker room, you know, I think it's going to be really fun to see how those two specifically coincide with each other. And Hankins, you know, maybe taking him under his wing and see what they can do together in that interior defense.
It's going to be fun to watch out on the interior. We have seen a couple of the big plays that Mazi Smith made during his time in Michigan behind us. This is one play that really sticks out, and I know it just flashed up, but we got to look at it a little bit more in depth here. This is in the college football playoff semifinal against TCU. This is a crucial part of the game and a crucial part of the season. Here's Mazi Smith right here. He is ready to go, and he's going to go right up against Steve Avila, the left guard for TCU, who was thought to be a day 2 pick. Some thought might slip into round 1. He's still available as we go into tonight's 2nd and 3rd rounds. Look at the way that he extends here, because he does not waste time extending those long arms. He has some length, he has some power, and then he flows off to his left, makes the run stop. You talk about taking up multiple gaps. He did so here. He pushed Avila in to one way. He comes back to the other way to not only make a tackle, but then he rips the football out, Nick Harris. He gets around there and he rips that thing free. And then who else but Mazi Smith to recover the fumble, jumps on top of it. This is just a fraction of what Mazi Smith can do. And Dan Quinn even talking about it yesterday in the presser. Not only can he stop the run, but they think they can unlock a little bit more of his pass rush ability, which is something to keep in mind moving forward. When we come back, we've got day 2 coming your way. The Draft Day Insider Show continues on in a moment. What could be on the board for the Cowboys? Is it a tight end at 58? Maybe a Sam Laporta.
This segment was brought to you by United Ag and Turf, your first-round draft pick for John Deere equipment.
So now that we've talked about the defensive edition of Mazi Smith in day one of the 2023 NFL Draft, where do the Dallas Cowboys go on day two? Back with Mickey Spagnola and Nick Harris. I'm Kyle Youmans on Draft Day Insider. Mickey, now that they did go to the defensive side of the football, Dan Quinn has some talent added. What does the offensive side get now that you head into day two, day three? Are you forced to take two offensive players today?
Yeah, I don't know if you're forced to take two, but if they're there, just like they did in the first round, then go ahead and do it. I think, obviously, the one position that the Cowboys kind of had their eye on going into this draft was tight end, and there's certainly several tight ends there still available. I know they like a couple of them. If you wanted to look at the tight ends, you have Luke Musgrave. You've got Michael Mayer still there. Now, everybody was big on this guy, but he's still there. So the teams graded him a little differently maybe than everybody else in their mock drafts. And then the one name to keep an eye on, Sam Laporta. I think the Cowboys like him. We'll see if it turns out that way.
So you take a look at the pass catcher targets from Dallas there. But, Nick, do you think it's more likely that a tight end is on the board in the second round, or is it a wide receiver that would maybe fit the mold even more?
Yeah, I think if we're looking at the three tight ends that are Sam Laporta, Michael Mayer, and Luke Musgrave, you have the best chance of probably grabbing Laporta at 58 just because of the way the board will be falling, especially with no tight ends coming off the board just yet. But I also think Jalen Hyatt is a very interesting candidate to drop to 58 as well. I think either of those two guys add versatility to the offense. With Sam Laporta, you have an athletic pass catcher that has plus upside and run blocking as well, which is something that they might be looking for in that tight end spot. And then you have Jalen Hyatt, who's bringing versatility in himself, being able to line up inside, outside, being able to have that combination with CeeDee Lamb. That's something that would be really interesting.
Yeah, the tight end position has been a rumored position of interest for the Cowboys, and I think day two is where you'll see one of those go off the board. It may be Mayer, it may be Laporta, who knows at this point, but I think tight end is something that the Cowboys are looking at. Now let's move to offensive line, because this is also not a secret. It's a need for Dallas. They do not have a starting left guard at the moment. There are potentials out there to maybe go and find one. Here's some offensive linemen that could fit for the Cowboys. Most of these players can move inside to go play guard, if not all of these players, except for DeJuan Jones right there at the top. The only reason DeJuan Jones won't be doing that is because he's 6'8" and over 330 pounds. He's not going to move inside and play guard. But Osiris Torrance, guard. Steve Avila, guard. Cody Mauch, also in that conversation of moving inside. And then Mazi Bergeron was an offensive tackle at Syracuse. He can move inside as well. But Mickey, offensive line, day two need, certainly. Do these names fit the value that the Dallas Cowboys are looking for?
Yeah, it sure seems that way. And for my liking, I would like them to take a tackle who may have played tackle in college, but who can move inside to guard. And have that versatility going forward, because we can't just look at what the Cowboys' needs are in 2023. We got to look in the future, 2024. And one thing I like to point out, guys, is, Terrence Steele, he was a restricted free agent. He's on a one-year deal. What if he plays so well this year, they can't afford him in free agency next year? Well, I got a guard that maybe I can move to tackle, and then I can continue to find a guard later in the draft and develop guys, because you can't have a first or second round pick at every position. You got to be careful, and right now the Cowboys have got 3 first round guys on the offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of interesting names that could possibly fall to 58. But also, if there's not a lot of offensive linemen going early in the second round, you almost wonder if Dallas wants to jump up and grab a DeJuan Jones, a guy like that, to have that versatility with Tyler Smith, maybe even be able to move him back to guard if you want to, and have DeJuan Jones out on the outside. But like Mickey said, planning for the future as well, having those two guys being able to bounce off each other for the future. But looking at 58, I like Mazi Bergeron. I like Cody Mauch. I think both of those guys will be able to bring that similar versatility. But I think today you need to go grab an offensive lineman.
There you go. Big need. Go get it. The Cowboys have done that in the past. They went up and got DeMarcus Lawrence in the early parts of the second round back when he was drafted a couple years ago. Now they could possibly do the same thing in the second round. But that doesn't stop the needs for the Cowboys. What do they look at at the running back position. Could they pick up a tailback in day 2? We'll talk about that and a couple other spots when we return with more Draft Day Insider. Draft Day Insider rolling on from the Globe Life Studios at the Star in Frisco. Mickey Spagnola. We have Nick Harris. I'm Kyle Youmans. Time now to look at my top 5 linebackers left on the board, and there's some still really good names right there at the top. Drew Sanders, who I believe is a first-round talent type of linebacker. Trenton Simpson right at the top of my second-round grades. Then you have Deion Henley, who was a 30 visit and somebody that the Cowboys have been notably linked to. That's possibly a fit at 58. And then if you wanted to push the linebacker position into the 3rd round, then you have Dorian Williams from Tulane and Noah Sewell from Oregon. Nick, I'll start with you. At the linebacker spot, you had the departure of Luke Gifford. You had the departure of Anthony Barr. How much of a need is linebacker at the moment?
Yeah, you had to grab one either today or early tomorrow, and I like the names that are on the board early. You have Drew Sanders. If he can slide to 58, I feel like that's a no-brainer. But if you're looking at the other names, Deion Henley is a guy that's really great in coverage, really sticky, and being able to grab those big athletic pass catchers, especially those tight ends that are starting to develop here in the NFL and in the NFC. I think Deion Henley can step in day 1 and be step for step in coverage with those guys. But if you want to push into round 3 or even round 4, I like Noah Sewell. He has that NFL pedigree, his brother being Penei Sewell, offensive tackle at Detroit. He's got that size and athleticism you really want in that second level. He's just going to need a lot of coaching. And I think if you're Dan Quinn, you maybe like that quite a bit. And then Dorian Williams, that's one name I want to touch on as well. If you want to go forward, even a step forward into addressing that rush defense help, that's going to be a scary guy to complement with Mazi Smith, just being able to fly downhill and make those tackles.
I think Drew Sanders, for me, his versatility really catches my eye. A guy that can play linebacker. He has some pass rush capability, sort of like a poor man's Micah Parsons, right? And so the versatility of him, I think, would really intrigue the Cowboys. And there's a need for a linebacker. Depending on how they use Micah Parsons, the majority of the time, if he's on the defensive line and you're in a 4-3 set, you need a 3rd linebacker to go with Leighton Vander Esch and Damone Clark, and I think he would fit in nicely there.
The value of this linebacker class is on the back half of the draft. It's on day 3 and even slides into day 2 a little bit with some of the names that we mentioned there. The running back value has already shown that it's very high this year, but with both Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson going in the top 12, that was the only 2 running backs that left on day 1, but there are some names still left. Here are the top 5 on my board. Zach Charbonnet right there at the top. I think he would be a perfect complement for Tony Pollard should he be available at 58, or even like Nick said earlier, you could go up and make a move, be aggressive. I also really like Tank Bigsby down there at the bottom. If you wanted to wait till to round 3, maybe into day 3, then I think Tank Bigsby is an option. But Mickey, at running back, without Ezekiel Elliott in the fold this year, do you think that running back could be an addition for this Cowboys team and that they really could go and pick one on day 2?
Yeah, and I think it is a needed position, because what you have right now at the back end of that running back depth with Malik Davis and Rico Dowdle, those were 2 guys that came into the league as undrafted free agents. So if you're drafting a guy here, that guy has to be better than those 2 guys. I know you got the veteran Ronald Jones, but all you did was sign him to a 1-year veteran exception deal. So there's room, Nick, for another running back.
Absolutely, and I think some questions will be answered today from that front office about how they feel about Tony Pollard downhill. Do they get a receiving type of back, or do they get that 3rd down short yardage type of back? I think there's options for both of those options going forward.
What position is a must-get? Could running back be a must-get for the Dallas Cowboys in day 2? We'll answer that question by making maybe a little bit of a prediction, but we'll see if Dan Quinn maybe gets a little bit more of his great phone calls and his conversations with Jerry Jones as well. Draft Day Insider continues in a moment on day 2 of the NFL Draft.
Dallas Cowboys Draft Day Insider was brought to you by United Ag and Turf, your first-round draft pick for John Deere equipment. And by Dr. Pepper, the one Cowboys fans deserve.
Box checked for the Dallas Cowboys. Mazi Smith helps out the run defense at the interior of the defensive line. Nick Harris, what is another position that has to be a must-get for Dallas on day 2?
Offensive line. They're going to need depth in that offensive line going forward, especially in recent years. We've seen some injuries expose some weaknesses in that depth. I think if you get a guy on day 2 that you can really focus on and being able to develop and have ready in case injuries do pop up in 2023, then you have a guy who's ready to step in and do that.
Yeah, I think the offensive line for sure, but I think they've got to play this 2 rounds of the draft just the way they did the first round. Let it come to you, see what's there, and then analyze which guy's going to get on the field the quickest to help you in this year. And to me, tackle guard is important, but also the running back position. I think the Cowboys, and if they're looking at one, the guy from Tulane, Tajay Spears, is interesting to me, and keep an eye on him.
That would be a fun get. Man, you talk about the pairing between Pollard and Spears. I think that would be phenomenal. Mine would have to be the tight end position, because if you're not going to get a tight end today, don't take one on day 3. This group is too good to pass up. Probably second round, third round, look for a tight end to be a Dallas Cowboy. For Mickey Spagnola and Nick Harris, I'm Kyle Youmans saying so long. We'll see you tomorrow with more Draft Day Insider.